Thanks everyone for being here today, and thank you for that introduction, Jacqueline. So our talk today is Why Us and Why Now? Roles for Librarians in Climate Action. And we're really excited to be able to share what's been going on at our institution as well as what's happening at institutions across Canada. So our outline for today will be the scale of the problem of climate change. We will be discussing both climate action and sustainability, understanding that they are not synonymous. In our view, sustainability is a broader context and climate action is a more narrow focus. Due to the emergency of the climate crisis at the present moment, we will be focusing more on the necessity to act now in ways that can mitigate the climate emergency we're facing. After outlining the scale of the problem, we'll get into why us and what we as librarians can do. We'll be looking at examples of impactful work and then getting specifically into the Canadian academic library type of examples. We have some local things that Amanda and I have been working on in our liaison roles, so we'll talk about those, and we'll wrap up with some small steps for getting started that hopefully will inspire you. Okay, so indeed all over Canada last year and all over the world, last summer was really a big wake-up call. 2023 was the hottest year on record. It was the worst wildfire season on record in Canada. Major Canadian eastern cities in Quebec and Ontario experienced what places in the West have been experiencing for years now, wildfires burning all over the provinces and bringing with it horrible air quality to our major cities. This picture is called A Day in the Life of a Quebec Fire Crew, and it was taken by Charles Frédéric Roulette for the Globe and Mail last year, and it was recently awarded a prestigious World Press Photo Prize. The photo really shows the dire effects of climate change on our forests and on our whole planet. And I thought it would be a good way to really put into perspective why this has become so urgent to deal with now. So in terms of why us and what libraries can do, libraries have a pivotal role in educating and the topic of sustainability and climate action, and the time is now. We are really well positioned to act for a variety of reasons. Why us? Libraries and librarians can serve as active agents against climate change and promote climate research within our communities. We're a natural partner in this work because librarians have long served as community catalysts. It's not something new to us. When the ice storm happened here in Quebec in 1998, libraries opened their doors as overnight shelters for community members to find refuge. During COVID, we became community hubs, giving out COVID tests and acting as food bank sites. And we were the place to find information on health. Libraries have long been a safe third place in society, but that really emerged to the forefront during the pandemic when many libraries provided essential services and responded so quickly and with such agility to meet the needs of our local communities. Second, libraries and librarians are trusted institutions, especially in this day and age of misinformation. Librarians remain at the forefront of fighting for developing information literacy skills among our user populations, and users come to us for credible and factual information. So we have a lot of credibility in our communities. And third, we have a track record of bringing people together. We connect people with the information that they need, but we also connect people with one another through our programming, in highlighting the work of our community members, and in many other ways. So what can we do? Well, we can use our spaces. Our spaces could be used for things like programming, for meeting spaces, for emergency relief needs, and for projects that involve sustainability. We have our expertise, including our collections. We point people to reliable information every day. We enable access to important information through our books, databases, data sets, and so on. And we have resources, including our human resources. So we know how to build and or use important tools and useful tools, things like LibGuides and databases. So in today's talk, we'll be showing concrete examples of how libraries are using these things that are already at our disposal. One thing to keep in mind is how important it is to put our own masks on before we help others. So eco-anxiety is a very real thing, and it's important to acknowledge that this work is hard. And already the work of the emotional labor involved in librarianship is something that's quite well documented. The work of climate action is no different. Eco-anxiety is really real, and there's an emotional toll involved in doing this kind of work. So it's really important to put our own oxygen masks on first, and really take care of ourselves. Otherwise, there's a very real danger that this work can lead to burnout and mental and physical health problems. So self-care is essential, and you can practice this in a number of ways by doing the things that you enjoy, things that reduce stress like meditation and exercise. Another important element is seeking community. Focus on building community in this work can really help. It can be, there's a lot to be gained from carrying the load of this type of work as a team. And I really like, it's on the slide and you'll have the link to look at later. It's something called the upstream model. And basically it's an acronym for various ways that you can take care of yourself, including U, which stands for understanding and self-compassion, P, which stands for participating in a solution, T, which stands for trauma, recognizing that the climate crisis is a collective trauma and that you process that grief. So you can check out that link later. And make sure to show compassion to yourself, especially when things don't work out quite the way you might have planned. So now we'll move more into the impactful work section, which Amanda will present next.
Okay, so I'm going to go over some examples of impactful work, starting with repair cafes and Library of Things. So we can move to the next slide. So Library of Things, if you're not familiar with these are materials, objects, items that libraries can loan out to help reuse these items among the community. A lot of popular things include baking materials, tools, sewing machines, kits, things like that. And what we can start alongside of those are repair cafes, where people come in and learn how to repair household items such as bicycles or appliances, or even how to patch a pair of jeans. All of this can be done directly in the library just through having a library of things. If we move to the next slide. Another important thing that we can do is program with experts. So this is what you can do if you don't have the expertise in-house. You can bring in outside help to kind of go over these topics. A really good example of this are the Blue Marble Librarians based out of Massachusetts. So they do talks and they do a lot of work around ecologically based kind of work, sustainability, climate action, and so forth. Another important thing that we can do is grow our collections. So we can advocate for sustainability with our vendors by having digital books, recycled paper, eco-friendly ink, and also suggesting the recycling of old equipment. It's important to have dedicated budgets for purchasing books on the topic, and also to digitize important collections related to climate and sustainability. There's also the Sustainable Development Goals Publisher Compact. So if you're not familiar, the Sustainable Development Goals are a project from the United Nations. There's 17 goals that we're aiming towards for sustainability in the year 2030. And so the Publishers Compact is a group of hundreds of publishers from around the world who are committed to these goals and trying to make their publishing process more sustainable through action through these goals. All right. A simple yet effective step is making book displays. So these can be online or in-person displays that help highlight our collections. It's a really easy way to just get your foot in the door and start off small. Another example are climate cafes for therapy. So this is a really new emerging thing from the Resilient Activists in partnership with ALA and the Sustainability Roundtable. So these climate cafes, they are virtual, they're open for everyone in your library, and they're also looking for librarians to participate as well. These are great places if you're looking to connect with like-minded individuals and just kind of find a place to just nurture your emotional well-being and kind of take care of yourself around climate. There's actually one coming up on June 24th. So if you're interested, there's a QR code on the slide. And when you get the slides later, you can also look more for that. All right. And then we've also got our sustainability committees. So OLA, BCLA, and CFLA all have climate action committees. ALA has a sustainability roundtable. IFLA has the environment, sustainability, and library section. And CAPAL is currently starting up a climate action COP. So that's a new venture that we're doing right here in-house. All right, so now I'm going to go over some concrete examples from Canadian academic libraries, and I do believe that one of our colleagues here today, Helen Brown, is looking for these examples as well. So if you do have other examples in addition to the ones today, please reach out to Helen Brown and try to communicate those. But I'll go over a few of them that we've been looking at. So one of the first examples comes from Simon Fraser University, who has a climate action statement baked into their strategic planning. And I think this is really important because it suggests a top-down model of caring from the library administration about climate action, and really purposely puts that in the forefront of what the library is doing. Our next example comes from the University of British Columbia and their air travel decision tree. I think this one is really great because they're asking, is remote option a possibility? Which we are here at a conference where this is entirely remote, so we're eliminating air travel today. But if it was in person, you can kind of go through the tree and kind of figure out, is this something that you really need to attend? Are there online options? And do you need to physically be there in person? And so it's a great way to just kind of get started in that conversation. So our next slide, McMaster has their recycling programs. So this is really great to see. There's programs to reuse lab coats. Lab coats can be dropped off in bins at the library. They also have e-waste recycling. They recycle tools such as pens, highlighters, pencils, all in their library spaces. So it's really great to see that. And I believe we have a McMaster librarian here today presenting, Nicole Doro. So shout out to her and these amazing programs at McMaster. Another thing that we can do is use climate-related topics in our instruction. So this is something where you can come up with topics related to climate or sustainability, and kind of feature them in the work that you're doing. And one of the ways to help you do that is Scopus's Sustainable Development Goals feature. So if your institution does have Scopus, when you're searching for articles and you pull them up, in addition to having the abstract and the keywords and the metrics, you'll see that there's a Sustainable Development Goals tab. And then the article will then highlight for you which goals are related to this article. And it's another great way to start that conversation with students in the classroom and kind of connect your topic to sustainability and climate action. All right, so now I'm going to go over a couple of different examples of what we're doing here at McGill to kind of jumpstart sustainability. So one of the things that I do as an entrepreneurship librarian is I've created a sustainability guide for startups, and this started with the Impact 200 Challenge. So this was an event that took place at our bicentennial, where the university gathered up students to participate in a challenge to come up with different ventures, different businesses that would address sustainable topics. And so I was a mentor for that program. I got to work with a couple of different groups who were participating. And then also as a whole for the program, I was the librarian on standby and had a guide that could be used for students. And this all led to a continuing sustainability startup challenge. So every year they do a new business challenge out of this topic. And our next slide. Another thing that we do here at McGill is we use the Impact Gaps Canvas. So we've used it a couple times. There's a Managing Impact business course that actually directly integrates the Canvas into their work. And then there's also the Map the System Challenge, which brings students from all over the university to come up with different solutions to challenges that are being faced and often integrates sustainable development goals directly. So on the next slide, we have an example of the Canvas. So you can see in the left-hand column, there's challenge mapping, and this is where the students are asked to kind of address the problem, what are the different challenges in place, and kind of figure out what are the issues that need to be addressed. And in the right-hand column, there's solutions mapping. So this is where students are prompted to do research on everything that has been tried so far, whether it's worked, maybe it hasn't, what are the different resources that are available. And they kind of then in the middle find the gaps between the challenges and the solutions and come up with new ideas for how they can help solve these problems. Our next example comes from the McGill Seed Library. So this is at our McDonald campus seed library, and it's one of the first seed libraries at an academic institution in North America. Recently, they had an event called Seed Saving and Plant Giveaway, where they partnered with 2 different groups at the Met campus, the Postgraduate Society and another group, where they got together and they learned how to save seeds and work to give away plants. So it's a really unique kind of venture. And I'll turn it over to Tara for the rest.
Okay, so another way that you can go about integrating sustainability into your work is to see about options for workplace sustainability certification. So at McGill, we have a university-wide certification program that different teams can be involved in. And I'm currently co-leading an initiative at my branch for the STEM subjects to achieve bronze level certification in the program. We already have 4 teams within the McGill library system that have achieved bronze, and there are 76 teams from across campus that have achieved at least bronze. So this is an interesting option for those of you who have certification programs available either through your universities or through your communities. Then I would highly encourage you to check those out. If such certification is not available, then another possibility is something called the Sustainable Libraries Initiative Certification Program. And this is a project to create leadership and provide tools for mobilizing libraries to think and act sustainably. They have one that's geared specifically for academic libraries. So it has 7 categories for acting more sustainably that are in things related to topics like community engagement and collections and services and so on. And your team works through all of those actions in order to achieve certification. Another way I've been involved in climate action has been to publicize courses and research that's happening at McGill. So I would encourage you to consider that as an option for yourself. If you have a library blog like we do for our library, we have one called The Turret, and that's for our branch. And in that, I did an interview with a professor on a new course that he was offering just this past winter for atmospheric and oceanic sciences called Climate Change. And using your blog can be a useful means for highlighting the courses and the research that are happening on climate-related topics in your university. So we're going to wrap up with some small steps for getting started. Now, I know the list is long, so I hope that's not discouraging to you. It's meant to give you some ideas and to be a springboard for you to think about things that are maybe even quite low stakes and something that you could implement today or tomorrow in your work. A lot of these things, it's just a matter of getting started. And even if it's something small, it will build. But the process of beginning this is often daunting, but if we break it down into something very small, then it becomes manageable, and then we can build on the wins that we have in this area. So I would start by saying you can, for those of you who are teaching librarians, you can integrate climate-related topics into your teaching, as Amanda mentioned earlier. You can amplify the work of others. So maybe your library is not ready to have programming yet, but there are other places like the BCLA Climate Action Week, which will be happening in the fall. You can amplify that work through different venues within your own university library context. You can include a sustainability goal in your annual review. So if you have an annual review like we do here at McGill, you can identify goals that might be sustainability related. And there's a document here that has lots of useful ideas for ways that you can integrate those kind of goals. So it could be things like incorporating the sustainable development goals into your teaching for a certain amount of workshops, or if you have a Teams group for your library staff, maybe starting a new channel for sustainability issues, or looking at more sustainable options in terms of goods and services that you're purchasing for your branch. You can start a sustainability committee or a community of practice, or you can join the newly formed community of practice on climate action that Michael Lyons, who's probably in the audience, is going to be starting. So get a hold of him if you would like to join. You can buy books on climate action and sustainability, and or make a LibGuide to highlight the collections that you already have. You can get inspired by a lot of the great ideas that are in a book by the United Nations Environment Program. It's called The Little Book of Green Nudges, and it has a lot of really good suggestions for things that people can do on university campuses. You can ask the vendors what they're doing when it comes to sustainability. And finally, and I think it's really, really important, is seek out professional development. There's a lot of opportunities to learn more on this. So the Sustainable Library Initiative had a recorded webinar series with 6 webinars last fall, so you can watch those from the link on the slide. You'll see some other information about Library Juice Academy courses on climate change, and there's an upcoming Association of Research Libraries Sustainability series starting very soon, and recorded webinars from IFLA's Environment Group. So these are all ways, and there are lots more where you can learn more about this topic. So I'd like to conclude by just emphasizing, yes, this work is hard and emotionally difficult, but we can build community to find support in that work. And I really like this quote from a professor of law in the US, Mary Christina Wood, who says, "Do something, do anything, just don't do nothing." So we hope that this talk has inspired you to find ways to engage in climate action in your community. Thanks very much for listening.